Hmm.
What
Yeah,
are
I
you
want to.
feeling now that?
Yeah, I was going to say that I wanted this to be as much as a conversation between you and me, and kind of letting go of, who is this for, who is going to listen, that it is recording. And I noticed that desire to share that came up right as I hit the record. I really
Uh-huh.
want it to be just a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. It makes me think of of like a sacred witness. Like there are different practices, authentic movement, or even, within like a play party space, where there's a scene happening and there's like a sacred witness, and that is part of the scene and it adds to it and enhances
Mm,
it. And it still is this like deep sense of presence and connection and focus with the people, directly, actively inside the scene.
mm, mhm,
And there's also this added participant of the sacred witness who is also active in a different way. And
mm,
yeah, that sort of came up for me as you hit record, and I immediately became aware of this like other entity
mm,
in
mm,
addition to you and me in this
mm,
conversation, but like this other entity of the sacred witnesses who are listening. And
mm,
um yeah, I feel curious about like how to be in relationship to them in a way um that feels sweet, and also like have this
mm,
conversation be focused between us too.
mm, mm. Yeah. Mm, mm.
Yeah.
There is this like big brother-esque red dot on the screen now, which,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean, that red color has connotations for me, which, are different from sacredness somehow. Like, I don't know. But even though in Hindu culture, red forehead like tilaks are used to represent sacredness. But
Mm. Mm.
yeah, I was just noticing
Interesting.
freezing up a little in presence of the redness.
Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. That brings to my mind like you just talked about, this traditional sacred red dot, within Hinduism. And now we have like this very electronic digital red dot in the computer screen. And yeah, that's evoking for me like bringing such a powerful conversation as the one that we are,
Mm,
intending to delve into here, like to a digital space.
mm,
Try to translate
mm,
into this podcast for people. And
mm,
um,
mm, mm,
yeah, yeah.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was feeling into what to share with you before the
Mm,
conversation, and there is a certain structure that I have used for these interviews, and there was a part of me that wanted to share that structure with you, and also there was a part of me that just wanted to fully surrender to how you want to just like without yeah giving any guidance from me, just like fully trusting in
yeah,
my
Cool.
my desire is to share my story,
Mhm.
and whatever wherever your curiosity leads us, I feel open to that, and I feel drawn to just doing that instead of even bringing in
Yeah. Yeah.
anything
I
about
think that
what
would
I've
feel
used.
really good for me. Yeah. I think it would feel good for me to yeah, to be able to really like um follow my intuition and its
Mhm.
tracking of the energy and of the yeah, directions that feel right.
Yeah, yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, even as I was saying it, like the difference in the sounds that you were making made it clear that it was the latter, that would be the right way. And I also look forward to, like, there have been a few occasions where I've experienced like full surrender to a woman, and
Mm.
it's been very rare and few, and it feels great. Like
Mm.
when I can do that, it's just like, yeah, just
Yeah,
completely surrender, and I look
yeah.
forward to surrendering fully.
Mm, beautiful.
Mm,
Yeah, I my intention for this conversation um is to be holding you in whatever tenderness may arise,
mm,
um,
mm,
and to be helping you, guiding you to explore what
mm,
feels meaningful around um, this. Hmm, the words movement and project are coming to mind, but neither feels quite right.
mm,
This path that you're on of like collective healing,
mm,
um, and I
mm,
just want to, yeah,
mm,
hold
mm,
that with you.
mm.
Hmm,
Ah,
yeah, and in terms of our time container, are you wanting to go until 12:30?
I would like for it to be a natural stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of
Okay.
feel into it where it feels good.
Cool. Okay.
And and there is perhaps like an upper bound. I mean, I can't imagine it going more than like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, just that's my sense that it won't go more than that.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. I have something at 1:15, so if the energy is still super ripe, then I'll just have to text
Yeah,
someone about pushing it off.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'll keep feeling into, what feels enough for today for me to share. And
Yeah.
around, I
Yeah.
think 12:45 it'll be good to just have a pause and be like, do we want to continue? Do we want to pause and
Yeah.
stop? Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay.
Mm. Cool.
Cool. All right, let's just
Mm.
take a couple of breaths. Orienting towards that within us, which is both steady and ever shifting. Grounding in the firmness of our bodies and the softness of our bodies. orienting to the floor holding us, the room around us turning into this little studio space for art and magic to emerge. And the sky above us, extending all the possibilities. And just taking a last moment to feel where we are, to feel ourselves encased. And then we can slowly shift our attention to each other and to the entity of this conversation that we will be fostering, co-creating together today. Hmm. What feels alive for you right now around this conversation?
There's a desire to express the complexity of living with like recovered, repressed memories of childhood sexual trauma and all of the there's so much complexity in it, and at times it just feels very constricted, like physically constricted, and also in my mind I feel constricted and trapped.
You say you have a desire to express that complexity. What do you want other people to see or to know about that experience you've been having?
I want others to see it too, like see the complexity, and especially others who have a similar background history as me, like for them to also express their own complexities, and in that I wish to feel a sense of community in that, like that I'm not alone in wanting to acknowledge the complexity. Like I carry the story that like everyone else just wants to ignore it, and I'm just alone and wanting to acknowledge it. And I want, yeah, I want to feel less alone.
Yeah. I have two questions. One is like, what are some of the threads within the knot of the complexity? And the other question is, when you said you're wanting community with people coming from similar backgrounds, what are some of the paths of similarities that you are really interested in?
Hmm. 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 Yeah, there's something that feels very unique about having lived without conscious awareness of being an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse for a majority of my life. And then, you know, that that itself is like the feels like the source of the complexity, where it's I still don't have clear clarity, like verified. It's like there is this huge event that I suspect happened multiple times, like huge. It's like one of the most lives in me as one of the most dastardly experiences a human could go through, and to have no one else be able to validate that other than me. It's extremely difficult. It's like it really creates this, yeah, like this question of what is reality, like what is even reality, like what is real. uh, it's like in all other things, all other human experiences that I'm sharing with another human being, they can verify, like, yes, we both had dinner today. It's like it's something I've taken for granted, that like another human verifying, like, yes, this is something we did together. Here, this is like a rape, and like no one. And I imagine this is a common female experience, like not just for children, but like women who are raped.
Or like, what really happened?
Yeah, it's like I imagine this aspect must be like, because like the rape perpetrator denies it, or there is no way to access the perpetrator, and it happens in like a hidden circumstance. I imagine it's a very common experience that women have, but as a man coming into that adds like a,
Right.
it's very,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Hearing you say that, it reminds me of how helpful it is. It has been, at least for me, and I imagine for others as well, in like being able to identify, like, oh yeah, I think what just happened was assault. I think that was a sexual assault. It's been helpful to hear like a really active, wide discourse that I'm exposed to about, other sexual assault stories, and just conversation around like, yeah, what does it mean for something to be a sexual assault as opposed to, a consensual experience? And because it can be very blurry, and it can be really confusing, and it can be so easy to invalidate. And I know for me, it's been really, really helpful hearing so many other stories from other women to then, if I have an experience in myself that feels that feels closer to assault than to consent. That's how I'm able to identify it, because I have this sort of like schema, if that's the right concept, something to build upon. And if you haven't had that, and if you didn't have that at the time when you were a child, and looking back, like without those other examples and other definitions to build upon, then I can just imagine, feeling so much more confused and lost. And yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and this just feels like the tip of the iceberg. Like what I've shared so far
Yeah.
is the tip, lives in me as like the tip of the iceberg. And there are like layers and layers and layers and layers and layers.
So would you define that tip as sort of being just this awareness of confused, repressed memories? That is it. Yeah. What else would you add to how you define that this tip piece?
Yeah, so far it's like, so far in what I've expressed and we've discussed, it's like coming into awareness and the confusion of this repressed memories, and then the lack of exposure to discourse around it.
Yeah.
And then I briefly scratched like the next layer, which is like being a man and coming into it. Because along with the exploration of exploring of my own abuse history, simultaneously there has been an exploration of ways in which I have been with female bodies intimately that have been harmful. That feels like a very separate man piece. Like there is something about it that feels very different, and that comes with it like my own sense of emasculation, which is a term that
Yeah. 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 I'm curious how old you were when these memories started to surface for you. Like, where were you in your journey as a man, as a human?
This was 2021, which is I think the year we met. I don't think we met before that. So that year, the start of that year, I mean, it had its challenges, but there was and my heart breaks as I share this. There was this like, I was in this life partnership and we had just bought a house together. We were moving in together, kind of setting up the house. And I had this clarity that I wanted to start a family that year, towards the end of that year, like set up the house and start a family. And in order to support me and my life partner coming together, because we were having a lot of conflicts, we decided to do guided MDMA couples therapy sessions. And in doing those, at some point, I realized that I would really focus, like I became aware that in those sessions, I was really like getting locked into her and focused on her and oblivious to what was going on inside me. And I think that medicine helped me see that I was being oblivious to what was inside me, and perhaps even surface that there is things inside me that need listening to. And prior to that point, I did not have that awareness. And then I saw that happening. Like whenever we were in any disagreement, I would drop or have no sense of what my needs were, and focus in on her. And it would not help because I was disconnected from my own self. It just like, gives a picture of where I was in my life. And I was 30 to 2021. So I was 34. Is that right? Yeah, 34. And by the end of that year, by fall that year, I had recovered conscious sense that, or had the question of like, wait, was I sexually abused? And it was a very jarring question to sit with. Like, was I sexually abused as a child? Really? That's odd. Like, I've never thought of that before. Like, why is this coming right now? And then by the end of that year, I had, with intention, recovered the memories.
Yeah. And how did that, I'm interested in what you're saying about like sort of ignoring yourself to be so invested in the partner and in tending to them, and how that how that might be sort of a ripple effect from these childhood experiences. I'm curious about ways that your journey with that partnership went as these memories became more clear to you.
It just collapsed. Like everything just came crashing down. Just just everything quickly collapsed from like August of 2021 till November, late November, December, and then by Jan it was fully over.
Wow. Yeah. Makes me think of what you taught me about the Saturn return being a time of collapse, so that you can like get yourself together in a more in a stronger, more mature way afterwards. It sounds like you kind of had a parallel experience to that, of just like this reckoning process where you had these memories coming back, and it was just the time to really have your everything shaken up. And now you're in the aftermath of maybe coming out as a stronger version.
I like receiving that reframing, and I've had these fucking reckonings and collapses so many times now. I'm just like, I'm just,
Well, you did tell me once that you have like a strong Saturnian energy, right? So
I do.
yeah, this is
Yeah, I do. And yeah, I don't know what to do with it sometimes. I'm just,
yeah, it's really intense. It's super intense.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and it's the word that you used of emasculation. So young. I feel like Saturn is this very intense, strong masculine. I wonder if there's like an overcompensation in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, Saturn was emasculated actually.
Really?
I'm pretty sure in the myths. No, Saturn, it's either Uranus or Saturn. One of the two had his testicles chopped off by, oh, I think it was Uranus. Uranus chopped off the testicles of Kronos. Kronos was Saturn, and from the testicles fell into the ocean, and from the ocean was born Venus. Like that's the story of the emergence of Venus. And I'm pretty sure it was Saturn from whose test, or was it Uranus? I need to look this up.
I know, this is fascinating. If
One
that's
of the two.
Saturn, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it could be that it was Saturn who did it. Yeah, because Uranus was Saturn's dad. And Saturn's mom.
Wow, Uranus was Saturn's dad and
Uranus
cut
was
off
Saturn.
his child's testicles.
No. The child cut off the testicles of the father because something his mom told him to cut off the testicles because it's a very complex, it's a fascinating myth. It's like whoever is the dad was, I think, being sexually abusive towards the mother. So the mother told the son to cut off the testicles of the father, which he did. And I think the son was Saturn. I'm pretty sure the son was Saturn because Saturn has this like really like follows rules vibe to him. So he just followed instructions and he cut off the testicles of Uranus, and the testicles fell into the ocean, and from that was born Venus.
Wow.
And it makes sense that if Saturn emasculated someone else, then karmically Saturn would be afraid of emasculation, and so Saturn would put on this like really stern masculine persona to hide the insecurity.
Wow. There's so much there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to confirm this. Just give me 1 second.
I'm also having this like tangential nerding out about like, Venus is this very like feminine force, right? And the idea that she was born out of like male vulnerability is just like very fascinating to me.
Yeah. No, that is one of the fascinating myths from like the Roman Greek mythological framework. Like there is so much in this, like just these in 3 or 4 sentences, it's like and there's so much representation because Saturn represents time, Uranus, I think, was the sky god, the mother was the ocean or something like that. And
and then and Venus is what is she the goddess of?
Like beauty and goddess of beauty and abundance and
yeah. Wow. Yeah. So then like placing you within all of this, like what in this moment is resonating.
Yeah. Yeah, what is alive in me, and I've been scared shitless with this awareness, is that it is time for me to reckon with the possibility that I might have abused other children when I was a child.
Mm, mm,
And it's, possible I did it by myself. It is possible that my grandfather introduced me as a form of play for him, like, variations of sexual abuse where he wanted to have me do something to other children.
yeah.
And there was this farmhouse that he owned in my village, which even as a child, I was a little like suspicious of it. I'm like, what is this farmhouse for exactly? Like it seemed like, and even in my 20s, I would look back and be like, what were they using this farmhouse for? Like, because it didn't seem like they were selling much crop. They were doing a
Mm,
little bit of farming, but my grandfather would spend a lot of time there.
mm,
And I'm certain now that some of my memories are from that farmhouse. So
mm,
I've been sitting with this wondering of like, how
mm,
many other kids were taken there,
mm,
how many other men came there, and
mm,
um,
mm. Yeah. Have you talked about the farmhouse with any of your family, other family members?
I've talked about it with my mother, and
And
my
how
father.
did she respond in those conversations?
I mean, and part of her has been helping me put dates together. So there was a part of her which was like did the research of like looking up the different dates, like when was it bought, when did my uncle get married, because I have a memory around my uncle's marriage which is very hazy.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
but then she's often like, in my perception, and this is the part that gets tricky to like really be like, how much of it is her, how much of it is me not trusting her.
Mm,
She'll often present something as a like, hey, see, like your story doesn't seem to match up with the date here. So
mm,
like I remember she said one thing last time I was discussing this with her, that she spoke
mm,
with two relatives who are doctors in my family,
mm,
and one of them told her that when cases of children or really young people being raped come into the hospitals, there is a lot of like physical trauma. And my mom was like, I don't remember like you having physical injuries. So it just, and she just stops there. She doesn't say it, but I
mm,
hear it as, you didn't seem to have physical injury. And I've heard from doctors that when people get raped, there's a lot of physical injuries. So
mm.
are you sure this happened? And
Yeah.
inside I just, like, from a statistical perspective, it's like it's a statistically flawed argument that she's presenting. Like, a part of me goes, because only
Yeah,
the
I
cases that
mean,
need to
yeah.
be taken to the hospital will go to the hospital. So you can't look at the data set from the hospital and conclude that rape always leads to physical
Uh,
trauma.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's yeah, yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I um yeah, hadn't had the question before of like how does your have you talked about this with your family, or has this been just a solo journey? So it sounds like you have tried to discuss it with your mother and she has not been very validating.
Yeah, she's had her challenges, I would say. Like, it's been, I think in ways she has been, like, she expressed a lot of rage once towards her father. And
Okay. As in like believing you.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
it's like if I knew this was going on, like, I would have, I think she said something like, maybe I'm adding my own words to it, like ripped his face off. I don't think she said that I'm adding my own words, because that is like expression that feels most true.
Mm,
And she had a really beautiful relationship with him. Like he was very
mm,
supportive of her. Like she was a woman growing up in the 60s, 70s, 80s in India, and she was he supported her going to like engineering school, which was unheard of, and like from a village
mm,
in India, like people would just marry off their daughters quickly. And so,
mm.
and she has had a difficult life herself, and he has been her the rock in her life. And
Wow.
like to recognize or to have your son come and tell you that
Yeah.
that this person raped me, like it is this.
Oh,
And I have been the rock in her life in many ways, the other rock.
mm,
And it's just I can't imagine
yeah.
what it's like for her and how she's even coping with it. I think she's struggling, like she's just
Yeah.
really, really struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That she would be almost eager to find like, yeah, this date doesn't match up with the story. Um, to find ways to be able to avoid having that like horrible
Yeah,
reckoning um of her rock, of rethinking her rock.
yeah.
And yeah, it makes me think of the ways that your psyche also has protected yourself over the years with that, with the repression. And
Mm, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
interesting to think of like what is protection. Hmm. Where do you want to go from here?
Mm. Yeah, I'm just feeling this sense of internal collapse and fatigue
Mm,
and exhaustion again,
mm,
because I'm again aware of like the complexity. Like again, that comes up. It's just like, oh my God, this is so complex. It's like, and the question of sharing with family has been so complex, because like I love my family in many ways. I don't want to kick them out of my life. Like I was really taking efforts. Like I had my first deep collapse during my actual Saturn return in 2016, when my first marriage ended. Like, and that was a big shaking up. And since then, I came to the awareness of how important it is to build connection with family. Like blood relatives are so important. Like I
mm,
deeply came into that awareness, and I was
mm,
putting in so much effort to
mm,
like really gather, like create community in my family. Like all of the things that, like both of us are in these conscious community connection communities, like
yeah,
where we
yeah.
do these practices. Like I was taking all of that to my family,
Mm,
like with the
mm,
hope of creating community in my family.
mm,
Like I led a meditation session once for 20 members of the family on my mom's side,
mm,
and they all appreciated it, and
mm,
it was so beautiful. And I have hardly spoken with any of them since this has come up. Some of my uncle has just completely ignored me since I've mentioned this to him. Like uncle is
mm.
my mom's brother basically. And
Yeah.
so it's just like so complicated. Like each piece is so complicated. And
Right. Every single member of your family has their own their own baggage, their
yeah,
own um yeah, projections and stories. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Where have you been finding support?
there have been some friends who have been there. Some communities, like I did a bunch of the International School of Temple Arts trainings, and
Mhm.
sometimes in God, like God, goddess, like different.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling. Like that is the truth. Like I really am struggling even after all of that. Like I've done a lot of different shit over the last 2 years, and it all has provided momentary release from the agony and
Mm.
the symptoms, the underlying symptoms to like bodily depression. Like there's a fatigue, like an
Mm.
exhaustion in the body, in like every cell of my body.
Mm.
The binge eating tendencies, like wanting to run off and like just stuff
Yeah.
myself with food, like
Yeah.
just it's the core, like the depression, like all of those continue. And I'm this is an interesting time actually for us to be having this conversation, because I'm honestly at a loss. Like I'm at a loss
Mm.
for what to do next.
Mm.
And if there is, and I've done and explored so many things,
Mm.
there is even this wondering of like, is there really anything that yeah, is there anything that can just help me live a good life? And I don't know. And I had this theory, like that, oh, if people saw their repressed memories, or like it helps.
Mm.
I don't know if it does, honestly. Like I really don't. I'm
Mm.
like I had this direction of like I want to help people recover repressed memories. I want to like develop these pathways to recover repressed memories. But I'm in this place of like, has it helped me? I don't know. I'm still struggling with the same shit that I was struggling in 2021.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Well, it is also young, 2021 was 2 years ago. I'm
yeah,
curious where you'll be in a few more years, or 5 more years, 10 more years.
yeah,
But I hear you that right now is just hard.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just feeling into that, the depression, the tiredness
Mm,
of all of your cells.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
What are they
mm,
what are they saying? Your tired cells. What are
mm.
they saying? And what are they wanting?
Something like I just want to, yeah, lock myself up in a room and not leave.
Yeah. Are they afraid?
And the energy inside when I feel into them, that like what they answer from is just like they are wailing. They're like
Mm.
wailing out loud, like
Mm.
crying out loud, just like really loudly crying, just loudly crying.
Mm. Do you know what they want? Can you tell? Or not yet?
They're just like screaming and wailing and crying.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Makes me think of when a baby is crying and you don't know what it wants,
Mhm.
and you just have to try
Mhm.
all the different possibilities.
Mhm.
Does it need its diaper changed? Does it
Mhm.
need milk? Is it cold?
Mhm. Mhm.
Curious what you might try.
Mhm.
I'm also curious if you're ready to try.
Mhm.
Curious how you are relating to that crying child. Maybe just sort of standing back and being a bit frozen or feeling drawn in. Where would you place yourself on that spectrum?
Mhm. Yeah, feel frustrated. And the piece that I was contemplating trying of late was to literally do that, like literally just not leave my house. Um, just be in my living room, and just sit and just like do nothing as much as possible. Like not escape into food, not escape into reading, not escape into exercise,
Hmm.
not escape into, yeah, like creating art, like nothing, just like really locking myself up.
Hmm. Sounds very Saturnian to me,
Mm,
of sort of
mm,
almost a forced healing process.
mm. Yeah, it does have a Saturnian flavor of like isolation. um
Hmm.
I'll also reveal that I have acquired some MDMA, and I'm contemplating using that, like micro doses of it, like a tenth of it, whenever the urge to escape feels like really high. And I've done it twice already over the last 4 days, that I've had like a tenth of it and just sat down.
Hmm. Hmm. How has that been?
It's created some spaciousness in that moment, like kind of less constrictions. Because, when I get trapped with these mental complexities of like, what am I going to do? I also feel like physically constricted, like in the throat and the chest. And it's helped kind of release some of those. One time it helped some tears come up and I could actually cry, which was really nice.
Mm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm curious again about the connection between young emasculation and more current, recent past of just maybe your young adult life, like overcompensating in that really like sort of very
hmm,
dominant
hmm,
masculine energy.
hmm,
Like it's what's bringing that back to me now is when you talk about this like very almost monastic healing process.
hmm,
It sounds like the MDMA is a little bit more spacious
hmm,
and still maybe within this
hmm.
like locking yourself in experience. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm curious to explore that connection a little bit more.
yeah, yeah. I've had a theory about this, like my attempt at making meaning out of this, and I have a theory around it, which is that over the last year and a half, I have really practiced freeing up the protector inside me. Like there was a protector inside me that was doing different things to protect me, and I carried through most of my life. I carried a lot of shame or resistance to listening to the protector because I did not know what he was protecting.
Mm,
After I found out the wounds that he was protecting, it created space for me to be like, oh, yeah, this is acceptable behavior. Like blocking someone on Messenger because they're, sending me messages that are not feeling good to receive
mhm,
is acceptable behavior. Like I would not have considered that acceptable behavior 3 years ago, but now I do.
mhm,
But in doing that, I have really like freed up the protector.
mm.
But the protector lives disconnected from the wound, and the fullest form of the protector is actually a torturer. Like the protector holds revenge, and the protector wants to torture others to take revenge.
Ah,
And that is like the fullest. It's the kind of in the dragon princess archetype, like the wound is the princess, and the fullest form of the protector is the dragon, but the dragon is just like spraying fire everywhere and just like destroying
mm,
everything. um,
mm,
and it hurts the wound whenever the protector does that. But the protector, the more I embody the protector and become strong through that process, the more I get disconnected from my pain, and I don't see, or in the moments I don't feel how I'm hurting myself
mm,
by torturing others.
mm,
So where I'm at now is I have given so much space to the protector, and like the exploration of domination, submission, exploration of shibari, exploration of the dark masculine and ista containers, like all of that was like freeing up the protector, like freeing up the protector to be like the fullest version that he wants to be, and identifying with him, like identifying with the protector, because it gave me so much like power and strength. and
mm,
and now the isolation lives in me as the protector needs to see the wound, because
mm,
right now the protector is just spraying fire
mm,
everywhere to protect. But if he doesn't see where the wound is, he's going to spray fire on the wound, which he does.
mm,
So the isolation is a way to like help the protector meet the wound.
mm, mhm.
and just be with the wound.
Yeah. Yeah, as I'm hearing you, my perception is shifting. Like when I first heard you say that your crying cells were wanting to be locked in a room, I perceived them meaning like I want to like hide away from everything. And now as I'm hearing you, it's shifting into like I'm wanting to be focused on. I want my whole system to just like come into focused connection.
Mm.
And yeah, and that's a very different perception.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's very scary though. It's very scary for the part of me that feels powerful, feels like the protector, to be in isolation.
Mm. Why?
I'm, I've had a long relationship with different flavors of societal urges. And I'm afraid that this isolation might lead me into societal behavior. Like, I'm afraid that it might just be too much to be with.
Mm. Yeah, I wonder how you might be able to like weave some softness into the container. Because you mentioned, you know, not escaping into binge eating, not escaping into exercise, not escaping into
Hmm.
these different things that you wanted to like cut out. And I'm curious, those boundaries like can definitely can have worthwhile presence, the presence of those boundaries, and what softness can also be
Hmm.
present.
Yeah, I've thought about this a little bit, but I keep forgetting about it because it feels so unnatural. Like, yeah, it feels very unnatural to invite softness into my life. Like, it feels very alien to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, you invited a very Venetian friend to have this conversation with you.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was thinking of you too, as I said that you're alien. uh, yeah, I was considering maybe, yeah, also inviting other friends here, local, who feel soft to be with, inviting them home to just spend time with
Yeah.
me. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. I
hmm,
wonder, I'm imagining that it could be important for you to maintain being like the recipient of loving attention when they come
hmm,
over. And
mhm.
I imagine that that could be edgy for you.
Yeah, super.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super edgy to continue being the recipient of loving attention. And it is super edgy to manage the eros, because I think with both men or women, like, even if I bring man whose energy I feel soft and nourishing.
Yeah.
Like there are parts in me that are attracted to men. There absolutely are. Like there is a inner child in me that I call my gay inner child. But I don't want to explore that. Like I don't want to explore sexual
Mm.
connection with a man.
Yeah.
And it's
Mm.
super edgy for me to like say that out loud, like be like I consider you to be a beautiful man, and I see the beauty in men. Men are absolutely beautiful creatures, and I feel this softness in brotherhood, and I don't want to explore like that. Is just like it's like stuck in my throat.
Mm.
And same with women too. Like with women, that it's also difficult for me to say I don't want to explore erotic connection with you.
Mm.
um,
Mm. Hmm. Are you saying that if you invite friends over and you are sort of in this like more vulnerable recipient state, it might be more difficult for you to hold sexual boundaries if they're wanting erotic connection?
yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah,
without a doubt.
it's
uh,
vulnerable.
yeah, because
Yeah.
this vulnerable receiving space for me is also highly erotically charged, because there is
Uh-huh.
so much sexual trauma trapped there, and it like that, just like the space around me feels erotic when I'm in and being able to like state and trust that someone else will listen to that, like heed that, is very, very difficult. It's yeah, extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Like so much of my self-worth at this point in my life is also kind of intermingled with how attractive I present, because I've put in a lot of effort in an earlier part of my journey with sexual shame. I put in a lot of effort to become physically attractive. I've put in like a lot of effort, and it was from that place of wanting to not feel so ashamed. And but then the flip side of that has been that if a woman is attracted to me and I can sense it, and I'm not attracted to her, it is like really difficult for me to just state that clearly, because I go, what if she was never attracted to you? Why are you like, there's just these different voices coming, like, why are you assuming that she's attracted to you? Why? It's yeah, it's very challenging to yeah,
Hmm.
to bring that. And
Hmm. I'm not fully getting the connection between sexual shame and a sense of attractiveness.
hmm,
Yeah.
hmm. Well,
Maybe
it's like,
that's what.
sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe that was because my brain was partially distracted thinking about something you had said earlier
Hmm.
that I'm curious about.
What were you distracted by?
um yeah, I think my system is like trying to sort it out. When you talked about like the shame around potentially being involved with assaulting, with abusing other children,
Hmm.
um, I wonder, That makes me wonder about current shame within your sexuality.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually a really important thread around this inner exploration of whether I have been the perpetrator of child on child sexual abuse. Which is actually, this is the first time I'm talking about it, on a open platform, potentially to be published. Like, I don't know if this is going to go live,
Yeah.
but I've never, I've shared it in one-on-one conversations. And one of my last interviewees actually spoke about her experience of, like, she was, her perpetrators produced, and this interview isn't live yet, but it's going to be live soon. But her perpetrators produced child pornography featuring her, um,
Wow.
and so she introduced other children. Like, they groomed her, introduced her, and then brought like other boys to her. So she spoke about that, and I think the fact that she was able to talk about it, knowing it was going to be broadcast, like, it gave me some courage of like, oh yeah, I can talk about this too. Um,
Yeah.
and it's a very
Mm.
taboo area within, like, the taboo area of childhood sexual trauma. Like, this is a very it's like another layer of taboo. It's like even less is spoken about, and it's very widespread, like extremely widespread. So
Yeah.
many stories of so many stories from victims of child on child sexual abuse that I've come across, but very few stories of, yeah, perpetrators, and just generally very few stories from perpetrators. Like,
Mm.
not often hearing stories. There's some YouTube videos that I've come across where people speak about, quote unquote, their own pedophilia. Um,
Mm. Yeah. Can we take a 5-minute
yeah,
pause?
yeah, sounds
Thanks.
good.
We can stay on the video, but I just need to pause the I need a brain shift.
Yeah, yeah,
Just like breathe and shake a little bit.
yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
So I'll see you
Is
back
it
here in 5.
5 minutes? Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
see you.
Hmm. That was helpful.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I usually design these that there is a general pause at like 40-minute point.
Uh-huh.
But I ended fully, so I
Yeah.
forgot.
My body told me when it needed that.
Great. Lovely. Yeah. I like it. I like it that you connected to your body and you listened and you asked. Perfect.
I'm learning. What are you eating?
Blueberries.
Nice.
I'll send one through the internet.
Yeah, cute little glimpses into your home life here.
Yeah.
Blueberries, got the cuddling cats behind you. They've
Yep.
just been like cuddling this whole time.
They have been, yeah. That's what they do all the time. They just keep cuddling. And then sometimes Ginger hunts cumin.
Oh, wow.
It's a fucked up relationship that they have. Honestly, it's like it feels demonstrative of everything that's fucked up in our world at some point.
Oh, they're cuddling. Why is that fucked up?
Well, they're cuddling now, and then in some time, it's always Ginger that hunts cumin. It's never the other way around.
What is that hunting? What does that entail?
Like Ginger is like pouncing on her and grabbing her by the neck and by the back, and it doesn't seem to me that cumin enjoys it particularly. Like it
Okay,
doesn't.
that's what I was gonna ask. Is this a
Yeah,
mutually consensual, enjoyable
I mean, who knows, right?
play
It's like
experience? Yeah,
it's kind of like
yeah.
from
Maybe
an
she's just
outsider's
being submissive.
from an outsider's perspective, it's impossible to tell the difference between non-consent and consent and good quality consensual non-consent. It's one of those. Who knows? But it's definitely doesn't. It's not in the playful realm. It's definitely in like the
It seems aggressive.
role playing. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's like kind of kinky aggressive realm of things.
You got some kinky cats.
Say again, kinky cats.
You got
Yeah.
some kinky cats. They're looking at us right now. They're like, "You're talking."
They know we are talking
They
about them.
know.
They know for sure.
Yeah. Mm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Did anything arise for you during our little
Hmm.
5-minute break?
Hmm. I'm feeling quite energized and have this desire to share more stories. Just yeah, feel very open to that, and I was imagining like a 35-40 minute of just you asking me questions and me giving answers. And
Mm.
I feel very
Mhm.
warmed up in some ways.
You said you feel very open to that in some ways.
Yeah, I feel very warmed up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. For me, when we were breaking, I had the thought of like, yeah, I was thinking about the complexity around all of this and was thinking about like um your sort of protecting your sexuality and what we were talking about with this concept, with this prospect of friends coming over and you being vulnerable and not wanting to engage sexually. Um, and yeah, I was just sort of musing on like is that fully like a lack of desire, or how much of that is also um, shame of your own desires?
Mm,
Um, and it made me think to what you were saying around the childhood experiences, and made me wonder about shame there around this is quite edgy to say, but around perhaps enjoying some of the aspects of what was happening,
mm,
particularly maybe with other children, or and just feeling such complicated shame.
mm,
It was
mm.
just a wondering that I noticed my mind went to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've definitely connected to the part of me that enjoyed my own abuse,
Mhm.
but I've not.
Mm.
This is the first time I'm considering the possibility that if I did abuse other children, which, by the way, I have no recollection of and I have no
Yeah.
recovered memories of, but it's like a sense that has been like building up.
Mm.
Then, yeah, this is the first time I'm considering. Yeah, obviously, I must have enjoyed it. Like, would have
Mhm.
been it would have been easier to enjoy that in some ways than my own abuse because I'm in power, like I'm in the seat of the power.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mm.
so just logically, it make if that did happen, then it makes sense that I would have enjoyed it.
Mm. Yeah. I'm curious about the parts that you've come to see in yourself, um, that like had enjoyment in your own abuse.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. That when I was asking you about enjoyment in your child experiences, I noticed that that felt like untouchable for me to say. Like it makes more sense of like, yeah, I could suggest perhaps that you had enjoyment with other children, but
Hmm.
just just noticing the taboo of,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've encountered this before, like the taboo of the enjoyment of the victim.
Mm,
um, and where I'm at now, it just seems so obvious, like it lives in me as like obviously like there is enjoyment too, and that's what makes it so complicated. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
like obviously there is like, because it's a physical thing. It's like
right.
the
And that's why it's
physical
amazing.
the way the physical body reacts to erotic charge
Yeah,
moving is
yeah,
enjoyable. It doesn't matter what context it happens in. And
totally.
if it happens in a non-consensual context, then it just creates complications. Like,
Yeah.
I would have liked it if there was, and I've thought about this. I've actually put a lot of energy thinking into, I wonder if my perpetrator had like made love to me instead of raping me, what would have
Mhm,
been different? Like,
mhm,
kind of, especially after I did the ISTA training and, got introduced to some slower sex practices, let me just put it that way, which has been like one of the significant pieces of some of the slower sex practices for me has been realizing how much of the sex I've had has just been not good for the bodies involved, mine and my
mm,
partners. Like, it's just not been great.
mm,
um, it's not been horrible, but it's not been great. It's not been a meeting of the bodies at the right moment where everything is open and wanting to be met. It's been too soon in most cases.
mhm. Yeah.
Even that feels great because it's like the release and whatnot. Um,
Yeah.
but with the yeah, I've wondered, and this also feels very taboo to talk about. Like I've wondered, if there is an instance of an adult having a sexual relationship with a child where the adult is so attuned and like really moves slowly and like is able to hold space and whatnot. And it just seems so unlikely that any of the childhood sexual abuse that exists in the world has been that way. It's not
Right.
something I want to explore myself at all either. Like I don't feel that draw. Yeah, it feels important to clarify too. Like I don't feel that
Yeah.
draw towards. And if I
Yeah.
did, I would consider talking about it too, because I think it is an important subject to be spoken about if someone feels sexually attracted to children.
Mm.
But I wondered, if like, what if my perpetrator had, because part of me has also wondered, like, what if he actually did that? Like, what if he was so attuned and, and most of the trauma is in my head because I'm assuming that he did it in a rapey, non-consensual way, but actually maybe he was this enlightened tantric guru that really like was extremely slow and like really met my body where and and it was purely beautiful, and it's only the conditioning of society that is making me see it in this way. And this is something I've sat with, because and this is one of the challenges of fucking repressed memories, because it's like I don't know, but I just know those moments. but
Mm.
but when the memory came up, I was crying, so it's clear that
Mm.
that wasn't it. Like I saw
Mhm.
myself crying while being penetrated from behind,
Mm.
and frozen over. So it's when I sit with that, it's clear that that's not how it happened.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm. Do you want to speak a bit more? Sorry, give me a moment.
yeah, take your time.
Mm. Yeah, there's just these these threads of a bit more of the theoretical around um, different healthy cultural ways to engage for adults to engage with children in embodied ways, you know.
Mhm,
Um, like this, I went to ISTA, which we've been naming this the International School of Temple Arts. Went to ISTA Family Fusion Experiment.
mhm,
Um, and at night we had instead of like sexual uh, temples where sexual energy was welcome, we had cuddle temples,
mhm,
um,
mhm,
and it was very sweet. And yeah, so it
mhm,
just want to name that whole realm of thought. That's fascinating to me.
mhm, mhm,
um, yeah, and can set that aside for now.
mhm,
um,
mhm,
yeah, and I'm wondering at this point if you want to speak a bit to like what were the memories that came to
mhm,
you.
mhm.
Yeah, and you started to name some aspects.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Partly in service of like my own desire for people to talk very clearly in specifics about what they remember, what they've recovered, because there's a lot of beating around the bush when people talk about childhood sexual trauma, especially. There's like, I was touched, I was molested. Like, what the fuck does it mean I was touched? Like I was like, every child is touched. And it just like
Mm.
really tries to minimize the impact of the action. And yes, I have this desire on this podcast specifically, and in general also, that people just speak clearly and like, this is what happened, and use the terms, and then sit with the impact of having spoken clearly, and it moves a lot. And
Yeah.
the impact of like telling someone very
Mhm.
clearly, and let them be with it, let them move what moves,
Mm.
because otherwise we just keep everything wrapped under the blanket. And
Uh-huh. Yeah.
so I think it would be helpful to actually, I'm going to list the memories and I don't think I've ever done it this way. I'm going to try doing that. So the very first memory that came up was in a mushroom MDMA ceremony that was guided by a friend of mine in Brooklyn. And that was the first, it was like an embodied memory that then when I processed it made me wonder, was I sexually abused? And it was this memory of being on my back and kind of just like my hips started like rocking while I was on my back. And this was happening while I was in the ceremony. And then I started feeling this like excitement of lust, and it felt new. There was like this, wow, this is such a new experience. Holy fuck, like what the hell is this experience? Like this is feeling so great. And then at some point it started feeling scary, like just, oh my God, this is so great, but will it stop?
Mm.
Where is this taking me? Like, will it stop? Where is this taking me? And then it did not stop. And then the excitement switched into panic. Like, what
Mm.
the fuck is going on? I want this to stop right now.
Mm.
Like, who is this? Like, who is this?
Mm.
And
Mm.
then and throughout this, my body was like rocking, like back and forth. Like, if I were to put words on it, it felt like how my body would move if it was being penetrated by a much bigger body, because there was that like wavy motion of
Mm.
rocking.
Mm.
But when I processed it, or in that moment, it felt like a woman was riding me.
Mm.
Like in hindsight, when I look behind, it seems more likely that it was the somatic experience of being penetrated. But when I was coming to that memory from this perspective of not being aware that I have had childhood sexual abuse and being a man who penetrates, when I was having that experience, the part of me that was aware was thinking, this is a woman that is riding me. And I had an energetic orgasm as that memory worked its way out, and I felt this like shame and disgust. Like right after, I was just like, this feels disgusting. Like I felt it. So that was like the flow of the emotions, and I could not see anything. It was all dark
Mm.
and very panicky, because like, who is this? Who is doing this? Who is? But there was some excitement there in some ways of like, yes, there was also some excitement of like, as a young boy, I have fucked a woman or something. Like there was some
Mm.
pride there,
Mm.
and some panic. So it was all a mixture of all of these different pride, panic, disgust,
Mm.
excitement, lust, fear, shame. Like it's just like a cacophony of emotions.
Mm.
How
Mm.
are you doing?
I'm all right.
Mm, mm. So that was the first one. And I really thought at that point that yes, there is a chance I've been sexually abused as a child, but suspect my suspects that I was exploring were women.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I wasn't connected to that emasculation experience then, because it was
Mm.
quote unquote natural.
Mm.
It's like or to my experiences before as a heterosexual man, it felt like, oh yeah, this is just one more of that. It's just much before I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a funny there's a funny tangent here, which is that I lost my quote unquote virginity late in my life. Like that was the awareness that I had. And there's a funny tangent here. Is just like I even did like a stand-up comedy.
Humor.
Say again?
Such dark humor.
It is, yeah. It's like there is a stand-up comedy set I've done, which is actually live on YouTube right now, which takes that as the seed of being late to the game. And there's a whole stand-up comedy routine I did based on that. And it's absolutely hilarious to me now from a dark perspective of like,
Oh my God.
I was like fucking around since I was 4, at least, it's like, it's just like ironic, like the stories that we carry about ourselves, like because I let that define me for so long. Like I let that notion of like, I'm a virgin, I'm a late virgin, like I define me for so long. And in ways it's true, and in other ways it's not.
Right. Oh my God. My system is just like starting to feel the knots. Like I feel like I'm like empathetically feeling viscerally the knots in your system.
Yeah. That's really nice to hear. Yeah, this is the paradoxes. This is everything feels like a paradox. Like there is no. Yeah, it's like something about paradoxes in life. And this could take us on another tangent. I don't know if I've ever nerded out to you about my exploration of paradoxes in mathematical logic. Like I've been exploring like how paradoxes get represented in mathematical logic, which is a very new development. Like if you look at the history of mathematical logic, it's basically like people develop some mathematical framework, then they meet a paradox and they're like, oh my God, fuck, this mathematical framework doesn't work, throw it out. Try to develop another mathematical framework, then they meet another paradox and they're like, oh shit, we are trying to avoid. Like that's been kind of the orientation of math and science, which is how do we define frameworks that have no paradoxes. And it's only recently that like in the 1900s, someone essentially proved that it is impossible to like not live without paradox. It's possible to have like a framework that won't have paradoxes. I'm being presenting this very simply.
Wow. That's so fascinating. Huh. Yeah, and whereas like magic is like inherently paradoxical all the time. And yeah, I think a lot about polarities, but I don't think very much about paradox, which is a different phenomenon.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you associate when you hear, and I'm consciously taking this tangent for a bit because I could feel the impact of my share and I wanted to just be for a bit before I share the next story. I'm wondering if when you hear the word paradox, do you automatically associate it with spiritual work, or does it live outside of the realm of like inner spiritual work when you think of paradox?
Well, I definitely don't associate it with mathematics. But that's just because I don't often think about mathematics consciously. Yeah, I guess I do often associate it with a spiritual, like personal development path. Like the presence of paradox for me, I think is most prevalent around like attachment, like the more I let go of something, the more likely I am to have it. Yeah. And the more I fear losing something, the more likely I am to lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about that one a lot.
Are you familiar with the concept of Zen koans in Zen Buddhism?
No.
So one of the trainings that they do in Zen Buddhism is that they will give you, like the Zen master will give you a paradoxical sounding statement, and you just sit with it and meditate on it and fight all of the urges to solve the paradox and find the answer. And that's kind of the work. Like the most common example of a Zen koan
It's
is like,
torture.
what is the sound of one hand clapping?
Oh my God.
And you just sit with it. You just sit with it, kind of resisting all of the urges to like,
Oh my
oh,
God.
I have the answer. It's like kind of that's the work.
It sounds horrible.
I'm gonna text you every Monday morning like a new paradoxical question.
No.
And you just like sit with it for the week.
Oh my God. My inner protector is gonna block your messages. And it'll be valid.
Yes, very well. I support that. I support blocking. Like the internet is so wonderful in terms of boundaries. It's like so great.
Wow, that's a statement like no one said ever.
Yeah, right. But it's so true. I can like close the call right now, block
Yeah,
you on all
that's true.
platforms,
We're just
and that's it.
done. Yeah, it's true. If I was like at your house, it would be a lot more. Yeah, there could be more uncomfortable to be like, I'm gonna walk you out and force you.
Yeah, it's difficult to disconnect quickly. It's like
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we would be disconnected quickly. The impact of doing that would live on in you. It would live on in me, like through our energetic connection. But at least it gives the impression.
Yeah. Let's go back.
Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah, we like discharged energy, and let's go back.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I feel this almost like giddy, childlike excitement of sharing all of these stories while also acknowledging how brutal these stories are. Like, and I'm about to like the different memories I'm going to share. They're not, but they come from my child part. So my child part also has that like, oh yeah, I get to talk about this and like share it with someone who wants to listen. And it's a very paradoxical experience. Like I had an interview recently, which I have not published because they did not want it to be published. Where when I got onto that interview, what was true for me that I was feeling glee in meeting another adult survivor who is practiced in conscious communication ways to discuss this, who also had and I just felt glee, like childlike glee. And it's so odd to tell someone that, like, hey, I'm feeling so gleeful that you were also sexually abused as a child. Like, it's like a really odd thing to say, but it is true. Like because there's parts of me that are heartbroken that like someone else has also gone through that experience. There's parts of me that feel like, oh, great, I'm not that alone anymore. Like there's someone else who's gone through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel ready?
I just feel like naming, like, it feels like such an essence of being a human in these cosmos, to be in both tragedy and and laughter together.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, something about innocence and tragedy. Like the
Yeah.
innocent tragedy feels so, yeah, feels so essential to the
Yeah.
human experience. And I imagine it's because, so many humans have deep childhood trauma, and childhood trauma is basically experiencing tragedy when you are in a space of just pure innocent bliss, like you're unsullied by the
Mm.
realities of the world, and then you suddenly meet one of the realities, and that causes direct tragedy. And that
Yeah.
that transition from innocence to tragedy feels very essential.
Totally. And the process also of trying to heal the tragedies also feels really innocent to me.
Hmm.
You know, the process of like, what the fuck do I do about this? You know, the what the fuckness is
Hmm.
almost like a childlike overwhelm.
Yeah, that's true. Huh.
And that to me feels really innocent too. And
Hmm.
it's just like, yeah, it's just nothing to do but cry, nothing to do but laugh
Hmm. Hmm.
for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now I feel ready.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Feel this questioning in me of like, yeah, what is the purpose of sharing the specifics? And there is some kind of a moral stance I have there of it feels important for the society to talk about these specifics, because otherwise it just really diminishes the impact of what happened, and then it doesn't flow, like the energy doesn't flow out and awareness doesn't flow out. It gets stymied somewhere if we just say I was abused or I was molested, I was touched. But I also sometimes wonder, why? What is the? I mean, I've generally been in this space of what is my work truly, like what is my purpose in all of this, and I feel connected to that, and I'll just share anyways, and I'll keep it simple. Like I won't make it too dramatic. Like I'll just keep it simple, clear. Yeah, one of the first. So then, I described the first memory, and I spent 2 months in this swinging pendulum, basically, of like, was I sexually abused? There's no way I was sexually abused. It was I sexually abused? Fuck no, it's just impossible. Like, are you kidding? Like, how is that even possible? Seriously? No, no. Like that was the swing. It's like, oh my god, I think this really happened. Like, what? Nah, there's no way. Like, how could I not remember this? How is it possible to not remember being sexually abused? It just seems wild. So there was that pendulum, and it got more and more challenging to be with. And that's also a difference I've noticed in my journey and in some of the other journeys I've encountered, where like I had this burning desire to find out for certainty. And I've met many people who live in that uncertainty for longer. Like, yeah, I was probably sexually abused, but I don't remember who it was, when it happened. And it feels astounding to my system. How could you not want to know for like it's really difficult for me to grasp, but that's a me thing, it is a me thing. And in this space, I think I was sharing earlier that I've been in this space of like, has this helped me? Has it helped me to find out? Has it really? Like, I don't know. It's helped me just soften a little bit about, oh, maybe they are smarter than I was. I was just like, this is the biggest mystery of my life. I need to resolve it like ASAP. And so I went into this ayahuasca ceremony with like clear intention of, oh, yes, I want to find out with clarity. And yes, at some point the memory started coming up. And the first memory was my grandfather masturbating me. Like that was one of the memories that came up. Actually, I don't remember if that was the first memory. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't remember if that was so the sequencing a little, because there was another memory where I felt a penis in my mouth, and as the memory was coming up, I could feel like my mouth was being forced open, and then it was contracting again, forced open, contracting again. I could feel it. I could like I could feel physically feel like a cock in my mouth. And I remember as that memory came up that I spat into the bucket that I had next to me. And it really felt like I was spitting old semen that I had digested. Like I was spitting it out of my system, even though it was spit. But the suddenness with which it appeared, it's because usually when I spit in, when I'm living my conscious life, it builds up, whereas this just appeared suddenly, like right in the middle of my throat, like very suddenly, and it felt like it came from deep inside, and I spit it into the bucket. And that became the theme then for the rest of the night. Like the rest of the night, I was just like periodically like spitting into the bucket, spitting in the bucket, and that helped me get a sense of how many times it was, because not every memory was clear. So there was this memory, the fellatio memory, then there was a memory of being penetrated from behind, which was the hardest one to meet. I mean, the fellatio was a bit of a shock. And there was when I felt the fellatio memory came up, I think I was like, I hope this is it, like I hope this is all there is. And I hope it was just me blowing someone. Like there was a real panic of like, I hope there isn't more. But in that, like, I hope there isn't more, there was also knowing that there is more, because if there wasn't more, then I wouldn't be in this like, oh, I hope there isn't more, like, state. And then I had the memory, I was like bent over. I'm pretty sure this was at my grandfather's house, not the farmhouse. And I was just frozen over, and I experienced like the dissociation. Like I could feel my consciousness had left my body, and I was witnessing myself being sodomized. And I was just crying, and I was just like the boy was just tears rolling down, in shock and freeze. And I could feel like my grandfather's right hand on my hip, on my right hip. And my right hip has had like chronic locking physical challenges of my life. Like it almost feels, and I could feel the freezing of my body and my right hip in that moment, because I was bent over, so it was frozen. And since then, it's like had just lots of chronic hip challenges. And there were some other memories which were more like kind of location. Like there was a temple in my village that I'm actually familiar with, and I'm fairly certain something happened there, but I couldn't recover the exact memory. I just spat. Like the temple came in my consciousness, and I like spat once again. Then a restaurant came, and my sense is that my grandfather took me to the bathroom while we were all like having dinner somewhere. And I don't know again what he did to me in the bathroom, but it was a sense that, oh, I'm with family, we're having dinner, and he's taking me to the bathroom. So that was like one set of memories in the ayahuasca ceremony. And that switched. That was the emasculation switch, because here's a man who's bigger than me, who's more powerful than me, who is defeating me in masculinity in the worst way that a man can be defeated. Like, that's how it lives in me. It's like, like you could fight a man and slay his, like, as a warrior. And like, I'm speaking a lot in warrior language because that's been a part of my journey, a lot of like martial arts. And you can, cut his head off, and that would be a more honorable way to defeat a man than to defeat him and then rape him. Like, that feels in my system like much more like dishonorable. Like, what am I now? Like, who am I now? Where is what is left of my masculinity? Like, I've lost. I lost the battle. Like, that's how the adult me was like kind of processed that as in that way. Like, and it opened up a whole chapter of like exploring queerness and presenting myself in more feminine ways. Like, it really opened up that chapter for me, which is a whole exploration of its own. And it's like informed some of the viewpoints I have about queerness and being trans. Like, it's informed some of those for me. Like, because for 3 months I was in that space of like, oh, I'm no longer like, am I a man anymore? Like, I feel more like a woman. I don't want to go too much into that.
I'm curious, when you discovered that the memories were your grandfather, specifically, because you had that mystery of, I think I was abused, but I think it was a woman. And then maybe there was like the fellatio, but maybe it could have been anyone. Like, how did it become apparent of who it was, and what was that like?
Yeah. So timeline wise, August end 2021 was when the question came up, was I sexually abused? And then September and October, I lived in the mystery. Like, I don't know with certainty. And then early November was when the memories came up with my grandfather, and it was so clear. Like, it was like
Just like immediately.
It was like I could feel his presence just everywhere. And
wow.
And it was like, it was a moment. And there is a video that I've posted on Instagram about I labeled it the heartbreak of remembrance. And it was the experience of deep heartbreak, because I knew all along who it was, and I just did not want to accept it, because I loved him. I loved him in many ways. And it was this moment of like, oh, it's him. And fuck, it's him. And like, really, just like, really. And I'm right now, the way I'm sharing it, it's with some acceptance, but I was just like wailing in that ceremony. I'm just like I knew all along it was him, and I just could not accept it. And I finally, it's like, I imagine it's like when, I don't know, if your partner is like cheating on you nonstop, just could not accept it, because they're like, oh, they love me, they would never do that. And then you have a moment of like, oh yeah, I see. Like, oh my god, like the sudden revelation of your own heartbreak that you've been trying to like hide from all your life. Like, oh, I don't want to see this because it's too heartbreaking, too painful. And then suddenly, like, oh my god, yeah, it's like the deep, intense heartbreak was like the emotional experience of like, and I was feeling his like energy all along. And then he actually his face had emerged in a psychedelic ceremony in early August, in a space where I connected to the rage inside me for the very first time. Like I felt so deeply like enraged. In a moment I screamed out loud, and as the scream dissipated, like his face just emerged. And in that moment, this was before I had this conscious wondering of whether I was sexually abused as a child. So in that moment I just felt fondness. I was like, oh, my grandfather.
Mm.
And I did not put the two and two together, but it was like
Wow.
extreme deep rage
Yeah.
moving through my body and then his face appearing in front of me.
Wow.
And I just went from like deep rage to, oh, so lovely, my grandfather is here. Because
Oh.
he's dead, like he died 7 years ago. So it was a moment of like, oh, so beautiful that I can connect to him in this way. And this was before any of it. So when the memories came up, I was like,
Yeah.
I put the two and two together of like
Yeah.
a deep rage.
Yeah.
This person's face, like why would those two experiences be juxtaposed in my being?
Mm.
Why would that happen one after the other? And I've
Mm.
encountered many situations where I sense the repression of childhood sexual trauma in others, where they do two things which it seems like they are not consciously aware that those two things have happened right one after the other. But I spot it. I spot like the thing that they're feeling and the thing that they say right after. And I go like, did you just see that or no? Like, and there is a specific example that's coming to me, but I don't feel comfortable revealing. But it was like it was like I was having a conversation with someone, and they said, yeah, I'll reveal it without too much of the details, which is like, and they said it definitely couldn't be my blank. It
Mhm.
was about like repressed childhood sexual trauma, and it was almost immediate. Like, who could it be? It definitely couldn't be my blank.
Mhm.
And it was just so quickly juxtaposed, like a moment of like wondering who it could be. Oh, it's definitely not that.
Mm.
That to my experience of how these things live, it's
Mm.
like, you look at the wound and the protector just like backs your head away and it's like, no, don't look there. And the protector
Mm.
expresses like, it's definitely not my blank. The protector
Yeah.
is speaking that, no, it's definitely not that.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how strongly your intuition has been speaking to you.
hmm,
It's
hmm,
pretty incredible.
hmm. Where do you spot that in this? I'm curious.
It's in this strong knowing, you
Hmm,
know, in that juxtaposition, the anger, grandfather's face, you know what that means.
hmm, hmm, hmm,
That's not, yes, logic can have some say in that
hmm,
conclusion, but really it's just pure
hmm,
power of intuition.
hmm, hmm, hmm,
And the fact that you're starting to sense intuitively for others as well is,
hmm,
yeah, I'm curious about the gifts in that.
hmm. Yeah,
As brutal as the knowing has been for you.
yeah. It's a brutal gift to offer to anyone.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah,
brutal gift.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. You're still asking if what parts of this have been a gift for you versus just a curse.
Yeah, I know. Which has been helpful, which has softened me a little bit, because I was like, oh, obviously this is a gift. If I tell you my sense that you were probably abused by this person on your life, why wouldn't you take it as a gift? Like I was like, and it's helpful to come to this place of like, I don't even know if this is this is being good. Like, is this self knowledge being good for me? I really don't know. Like, this has been.
Yeah. Well, what comes up for me when I hear that is like slow,
Hmm.
So,
Oh. Hmm.
like, and
Ah.
a theme that I've heard a bit from you in this conversation is like the desire to do things, to act, to do something about what's happening.
Hmm.
Um, and I keep wanting to bring that softness into
Hmm.
your being
Hmm.
where we might not yet know what pieces are gifts, what pieces are curses,
Hmm.
and we don't have to do anything about that not knowing yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can just
Hmm.
slowly be with. I have this image of like Saturn in the sky and me as Venus, like drawing you and being like, come into the water with me.
Mhm. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
There was a reason I was born.
Hmm.
There's a reason that I was born in water.
Hmm.
Come soak with me.
Hmm. Hmm. Ah. I've had the strongest aversion to being in water bodies in the last year and a half. Like the most averse I have felt to being wet in water has been in the last year and a half.
Wow.
Because I just swim regularly, and for the last year and a half, I've just been like, no, I don't want to be in the ocean, in the water, and lakes. Like,
Wow. Mm,
Mm, mm.
mm,
So fascinating how the myths live on. There is so much the mythical archetypes that just reflect.
yeah.
Yeah, so much of the experience in the depths of the darkness can only be captured in mythical stories. Like
Mm,
everything else seems to fail.
mm, yeah. Cosmic characters. Mm,
Hmm.
yeah. Where are you placing yourself in this moment within the story of that myth and the journey of it?
Hmm.
Where are you now, right now?
Hmm. And the chopped off testicles falling freely through the air and rushing towards the ocean. Like that's where I am right now.
Mm, mm, mm. Do you think you can go to an actual ocean soon?
Yeah, I was wondering. I was wondering about sauna instead. Like, because
Mm-mm.
no, I don't know. The ocean is far from where I am. It's like 8 hour journey.
You said a 3-hour journey?
Eight.
Oh, an 8-hour journey. Yeah, that's a bit of a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
What about a waterfall?
Yeah. Waterfalls feels doable. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Or even a bathtub soak feels very doable.
Mm,
And that's been on my mind, like in this
mm,
isolation space, just kind of create a, yeah, just nice Epsom salt, some
yeah.
lavender. I really love the fragrance of lavender,
Mm,
and then soak in a bathtub.
mm, yeah. I have an intuition that Epsom salt might even be too strong.
Really.
Yeah.
Mm.
Drawing out, drawing out. Like, I have a sense that just soaking
Mm.
in warm water
Mm.
really gently,
Mm.
maybe with some flower essences in there.
Oh, maybe some actual flowers. That would be lovely, actually.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That sounds amazing, actually. I'm gonna get some actual flowers.
Yeah. Mm.
I also want to note that, as much as the Saturnian part of me has been alive in connection with you, like that has been the role, I have been often reflected to as Venus and very Venusian in my ways of being in the last few months. Like there has been a very Venusian way that I present, and it's been like kind of like I shared earlier about appreciating the beauty, like seeing the beauty in men. Like it's such
Yeah.
just like being
Mm.
attuned to beauty,
Mm.
and also really taking care of myself, like in beautiful ways, like buying a beautiful car, buying a
Mm.
bike purely for aesthetic reasons, like aesthetically beautiful bike. Like the car is just aesthetically beautiful, and like really being appreciative of how deep shallow aesthetic beauty goes, like really feeling deeply that this separation of physical beauty, shallow soul,
Mm.
like it's just a silly separation. It's like it's
Mhm.
it's all beauty, and beauty
Yeah.
is deep.
Yeah. Yes. Joy is like, this sounds cheesy, but joy is like the flower essence of this world.
Mm.
Like it just is. Yeah.
Uh,
There's nothing ever to doubt about joy, pure joy.
mm, mm,
Yeah. And I hope that for all of us. I wish that for all of us. Mm. As we hold the vivid awareness of tragedy and paradoxically are able to move towards that deep, deep joy. That's the journey.
mm, mm, mm.
Do you have anything that you want to express in a closing?
Mm. Yeah, appreciated the softness of this exploration with you. It feels aligned with my dream of being able to discuss these difficult subjects in a manner that I feel resourced, and like the humans discussing subjects feel resourced rather than depleted,
Mm,
and feel alive rather than despair,
mm,
dejected. Like there is
mm,
life that comes through. And
mm.
I appreciate being able to access that in this conversation with you.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. When you said the word life, I had this vision of what I imagined as your grandfather's face.
Mm,
And as edgy as this type of statement is, I pray that the levity, the light, the connection that we are able, you and I, to cultivate together and through community are able to invite others into that warmth. I hope we are able to be a part of healing
mm,
what was hurting your grandfather.
mm. Ah,
And bring some purity back to his being as well.
ah.
The generation before him, and before, and before, and before. Thank you so much, Biggie, for inviting me into this.
Mm,
It's really potent conversation.
mm,
I feel it in me.
mm,
Yeah,
mm,
it feels really beautiful. I'm really grateful to be,
mm,
yeah, delving in with you.
mm. Yeah, I really appreciate your openness to go to the edge. Really, really appreciate that. There's a David Data quote that comes to my mind, which is basically like, life is at the edge. Like there is life force, like lives at the edge. I feel attuned to that, and yeah, I really wish that for my grandfather, like to be healed, because he is in me now, whether I like it or not. He's not separate from me. He is in me, and if I want to live a good life, it feels partly selfish to say this, but also it's true. Like if I want a good life, like it's important that his spirit be healed,
Yeah.
and he can take his role as a protective, blessing ancestor, like really own that role fully.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. He deserves that honor. Like
Yeah.
yeah. I want that for him. I want that possibility for him. Ah. Mm. Mm. And I want so much loving attention and warm nurturance for you. Yeah, I want you to be tended to. And I'm here. I'm here for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like a tamed dragon right now. It's nice.
No more spouting fires and revenge. Just being still like strong as fuck as a dragon, but like just resting for a moment. Just basking in the power. I hope you have a really delicious bathing experience. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel free to text me at some point tomorrow if you want to just touch back and check in.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for offering that. Yeah, that would be really nice.
Cool. All right. Sending you so much love.
Thank you.
Be well.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.